Hello guys, welcome to this week's tutorial on ProRPA.com. Today, we will be continuing our discussion on some of the other, things, or rather the features that are provided within Automation Anywhere. Right, so last week we went through the control room. We were able to get into the community edition, and that is something which specifically caters for developers. And we were also able to download the bot agent, just to kind of establish the connection between our control room and the local system where we will be performing the automation. So today, we will briefly go through some of the other capabilities, and then we will also download and install the AA client, right? The Automation Anywhere client. So a very, very thorough explanation and about the theoretical concept of what these specific features are is also provided in the blog post on ProRPA. So if you haven't checked that out, please go to the description and check that out. All right. So we were able to log into the control room. Everything is fine. I want to touch base a little bit on two of the major things, or rather three of the major things. First is the IQ bot. So what IQ bot does is, it's like, as the name in itself suggests, it is like a bot with some IQ, right? Some intelligent questions, some cognitive abilities. So that means it can leverage both artificial intelligence and machine learning, right? And can kind of make sense out of the data, right? So imagine like this. One of the very, very typical examples, which I've also put in the blog post, is that you have like so many invoices, right? From a medical facility, from your gym, from your restaurants, from your lodging expenses, blah, blah, blah. Now, all of these would have, let's say some invoice number, some like the total amount that is due or total amount paid by you and all that stuff. And you need to extract that specific information. Now, the problem is if it was only one specific kind of expense, right? So let's say if it was only, let's say, Starbucks expense, then it makes it easier because Starbucks would have a very specific way of having these invoices. It would have invoice number, let's say, just hypothetically on the top, and then it would have its name, logo, Starbucks, blah, 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 some address where you actually made the purchase, and then probably you would also have some the total amount to the stuff that was purchased, whether it was a food or beverage, whether it was some bottles, some coffee packets and stuff, so whatever that is, and then the total amount due is also there, right? So if it was exactly going to be at the same place, it becomes easier for bots to extract that data. But now, that's not how human mind works, right? For you, if you're also looking at, let's say, a lodging expense from one of the hotels that you stayed in. Now, you need the invoice number and you need the total amount due. To do that, this is called an unstructured data, which means data can be available anywhere in this whole receipt, in this whole invoice. And IQ bot has got those cognitive abilities so that it can extract right data from that right place. Right? So this means it's a very, very common concept in software development as well to, kind of convert an unstructured data into a structured one. I can recall from one of my academic projects that we were, downloading data for back in year 2014, if I recall, elections data for Indian elections. Right, there was 2 or 3 major parties, BJP, AAP, and one called Congress, and all 3 were competing against each other. And I wanted to, kind of extract data from Twitter and Facebook for all those people who are, either using a hashtag called #Congress, #BJP. So kind of extract all that data kind of on a real-time basis, and then put some sentiment analysis and stuff. Right, so that data was very unstructured because it was getting data from Facebook, from Twitter, I can't recall if it was some other social platform as well, but it was able to get that data out. It was able to kind of sanitize it, put that in a database called MongoDB, and then it can, kind of make sense out of it by doing this sentiment analysis thing that I was talking about, to just see whether people are saying praises about one specific political party over the other, right? So that's kind of just a high level overview of how cognitive automation or cognitive functions work in software development, right? So that's what it helps you do. If you want to check it out, just click on Launch IQ Bot, and it can give you, it can direct you to the place where you can learn more about this. All right, next is the bot insight. So insights, just to get an insight of something, it also has that connotation of analytics, right? Which is also kind of written here. So with analytics, you can do, data analysis in form of bar charts, pie charts, line graph as kind of shown in here, right? And it gives you an overall metrics of how the bot is performing and how the business is also performing. So let's say if somehow we are getting too many red flags, right? We can kind of set a threshold and then kind of raise an alarm. But we can use some color coding, some beautiful dashboards and all that stuff so that we can get an overview of how our business is performing, how a specific system where we are, kind of doing the automation is actually performing. So it gives that real-time data, those metrics, and it can help you, kind of remediate any unforeseen circumstances, right? Okay. And I also want to touch base a little bit on Bot Store. So this is an amazing thing. In Bot Store, well, you might not be able to see it here, but I was able to look into the Bot Store, and what it has is like developers, people from all across the world. They're trying to create, a repository, Automation Anywhere, and I think that's one of those differentiating factors where they have like this centralized repository where people can actually contribute their work, right? Let's say I have some amazing code which is doing some SAP data extraction, just making that up, right? I can put that up in its specific, domain, whether it's a part of the finance and accounting, doing some work with the general ledgers and stuff, whether it's some IT related stuff, like, probably some ServiceNow connectors and all those, incident and management and handling of those kind of requests, and blah, 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 could be anything else, right? So all those things can actually, all those bots can be put here so that people can use them and can make their work more efficient. So it provides much more flexibility and kind of, to the most extent, a standardization of processes, right? Like you won't have to, think of all the exception handling scenarios and stuff. You can actually just kind of leverage those existing capabilities and build on top of it. So it serves as a very baseline platform where you can build upon and kind of get your own differentiations among it. So that's what Bot Store is about. It's like any store, App Store or Google Play Store and stuff, right? Now, if you remember, we talked about different RPA platforms last week, right? We have the enterprise version, which is more for enterprises. This one is A2019, more for mid to large organizations. And the community edition is what we ended up downloading and, well, not installing, but yeah, getting the credentials for. And this is specific for developer. So if you scroll down, you can actually see some of those features in each of these applications, in each of these versions, or however you would want to call it, this suite of application. And the enterprise version, the only problem is that it has only a 30-day trial. But of course, one of the major things is that it has an on-prem delivery model, which I'm going to come into in just a few minutes. But rest of the stuff, it's like there is no limitation to any of those. So anything that you can do here can definitely be done here. But since the world is kind of moving towards the cloud, so in the free community version, Automation Anywhere is actually kind of directing itself towards more on cloud-based platforms rather than keeping it on-prem. But for the enterprises, of course, it makes perfect sense that they cannot just rely on cloud, because not everybody is as sophisticated in their IT infrastructure as them. just to kind of keep it politically correct, it's not a big deal. It's just more or less like, some people have a preference of on-prem, but you cannot just move everything to cloud. So I understand that part too, right? So I want to show in Community Edition, if you go to bots and you go to My Bots, you can create a new bot and give some details and stuff. But once you go there, all you can see is some of those actions in the left. If you remember, if you've seen the UiPath tutorial on Pro RPA, you can observe that these are kind of like the activities, right? And if you have seen the Blue Prism as well, they are called the stages, right? So similar to that, we can kind of drag and drop these actions. That's the word that Automation Anywhere use. And these actions are specific to, an application like Excel, or could be, some database level automation that needs to be performed, some file or folder level functions, and all this stuff. Very typical, like if else conditions. We're going to go into that as we progress. But yeah, this is where we drag and drop it. So, kind of like the flowchart diagram here, right? And this is like, as you can see, it's on a server, right? So on a web server rather. So that's why you don't have to have anything locally installed for this, and you can play around and make it much more easier and efficient. Now, however, as I was mentioning that for the enterprise level, they kept it more on the on-prem, specifically from the development side. Of course, they have their own, like the enterprises have their own control room where they manage the kind of orchestration of the bots, where they manage the scheduling, the monitoring of the processes, as well as the overall business, right? So that's still there, but the delivery model, as it says, is on-prem. So what I'm going to ask from you guys is to start off the free trial of enterprise version as well, but make sure that you kind of are proactive and diligent enough to get a good knowledge, a good grasp of Automation Anywhere within 30 days, because luckily, unluckily, that's like the limitation that we have here. Okay, so you start free trial and you are redirected down here. You provide your details, start the free trial, and then you get 2 separate emails in your inbox. So first provides you the information for Automation Anywhere Enterprise Client, right? So Enterprise Client is, it's already in the blog post as well. Feel free to check that out. But the client is like the software application, which is like the big full-fledged canvas, like a MS Visio sort of an application in your local system, where you will be doing this whole, what I was showcasing you, like all this drag and drop and all these actions and stuff. You can do that locally, and that's what it's gonna do in this enterprise app, like client application, right? And the second email that you're gonna get after you sign up for the enterprise version, this one, is for the IQ bot, right? And we just talked about IQ bots. I'm not gonna delve into that again. So I have a rough look and feel of how the email is gonna look like, specifically for the enterprise client file, right? And this is how it's going to be. And below down here is where you'll have your actual credentials, which you'll be using to kind of log in. So all you got to do is you got to click on this download. It's going to automatically download, I don't know, it's 176 MBs kind of a file. It's a big one. It's a complete application in itself. So of course it has to be big. And then once you download it, then you start installation, right? You just click on it and just kind of go next. So once you install it, I have given like really good screenshots and some verbiage in terms of how it is installed and like, the different kind of steps involved. So if you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to check out the blog post. The link is actually in the description. So once you do that, then it's going to ask you for your control room credentials, which is also going to be a part of the email. So in those 2 emails, so feel free to check that out and just put the URL, username, and password. That's it. That's all you're going to need to connect to the control room, right? Once you do that, if your credentials are okay, validated, then you will be able to get into the enterprise client application, which is gonna look like this, right? So this is the application which you have access for easily for 30 days, and you won't have any issues, and you will be creating bots in this application. All right, so I think that is it gonna be for this week. From next week onwards, we will start off with more development and some of the other capabilities that Automation Anywhere holds. But I hope you were able to follow everything that I mentioned. And if not, please feel free to put your comments or your questions in the comment box, or in the, like, for the YouTube channel that we have. Please do subscribe to it as well. And also, if you want, you can always connect with me on my blog. It also has a comment section, so you can always do that. And if you really want to learn, other RP technologies, and there are some, we are kind of expanding. The CRISPR Learning firm is actually expanding from just the RPA to more and more technologies. Not going to be even probably, we never know, maybe a few months or years down the line, we might even expand it to some other stuff besides the technology, because of the amazing, experience and the amazing comments that we have had, the appreciation that we have had from you guys so far. So really thanks for that. And yeah, please do check out the CRISPR Learning book series, available on Amazon worldwide, and also on Udemy and Skillshare. So you can check out those courses like CRISPR Learning for UiPath, for Blue Prism, for ServiceNow. There's other technology as well. I cannot disclose it right now, but soon we will be putting up books and stuff for that too. So do stay tuned and watch that out. And happy automating. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Talk to you guys next week.